The world is full of mysteries. Perhaps one of the more curious tales to come out of rural England is that of the Green Children of Woolpit. It is a tale that has turned into a legend. Well, our legend dates back to the 12th century and begins in an English village. Two children were discovered. Both were of normal appearance and sound of health. That is, apart from their skin, which was strangely green in colour. Initially, the children seemed confused and rather lost. The villagers had a hard time extracting any information from them, partly due to fear the children exhibited, being in a strange environment, or, more likely perhaps, the fact that they spoke in an unknown tongue. Well, that was the beginning of an unusual level of strangeness. When villagers tried to offer the children something to eat, they refused all that they were given to eat. The children were discovered to be indeed siblings. Of course, we cannot confirm they were directly biologically related, but due to sentiments of the time, it will be a fair assumption. Another small issue was that both children would only eat raw broad beans. This restrictive diet carried on for a while, but then, as time passed, they eventually learnt to adapt their diet, and they slowly began to lose their strange green hue. The children were baptised after the custom of the time. We need to remember that this was a time of deep religious convictions. Religion drove much of society, not necessarily from a pious congregation perspective, but communities were built around faith, kings, taxes, and much revolved around the most powerful persons in authority in the land. King Stephen was said to be a ruler at the time. Save for the king, religion was the next most powerful institution. Power was shared between king and churches. Even today, if you ask who rules a land, not many believe that kings, queens or presidents are in complete control. There is a general acceptance of some level of puppeteering going on, whether you believe in conspiracies or not. The boy became sickly and died not long after. No records reveal why exactly. However, mortality rates in the 12th century were quite high. Therefore, we cannot postulate on the reasons being something clandestine and unusual. The fact that they could consume similar dietary substances would suggest that they would also be prone to familiar diseases and pathogens. Ultimately, the girl adjusted to her new life, but she was said to be rather loose and wanton in her conduct. Now, again, even by modern standards, we cannot say this is surprising, as children that have had some personally affecting or traumatic experience frequently show some form of behavioural characteristics in response, which can be said to be abnormal. Indeed, some of this behaviour can be pretty mundane and accepted as part of growing up. Other responses give rise to deeper and more worrying concerns. Over a period, the girl picked up rudimentary English language, and from that villagers could extract from her a bit more detail about where she'd come from. The girl explained that she and her brother had come from a place called St. Martin's Land, a subterranean world inhabited by green people like her and her brother. This is all we know about the strange tale. No real records indicate the whereabouts or lineage of the children, so it's hard to scientifically analyse or investigate the story any further. Perhaps it's one of those tales best left to long unknown mysteries and fables of yesteryear. Some research on the internet yields a small list of information. This is not surprising because, taking into consideration the date of the events and the fact that most people of that period could not write or read, many events of a similar nature would only be passed on by word of mouth, and hence easily they'd fall into folktales, gossip and legend. The only contemporary account of this strange tale are contained in William of Newbury's Historiarum Anglicarium and Ralph of Cogshall's Chronicum Anglicanum, written about 1189 and 1220 respectively. Between then and their rediscovery in the mid-19th century, the Green Children seemed to surface only in a passing mention in William Camden's Britannia in 1586 and in Bishop Francis Godwin's Fantastical, The Man in the Moon, in both of which William of Newbury's account is cited. Explanations of the story of the Green Children is that it is a folk tale describing an imaginary encounter with the inhabitants of another world, subterranean perhaps. Some would say it is a garbled account of a historical event. Indeed, some have suggested the children were in fact refugees from far-off lands brought into the country and possibly lost. This explanation doesn't quite explain the young girl's description of the subterranean world inhabited by green people. The story was praised as an ideal fantasy by the English anarchist poet and critic Herbert Reed in his English prose style, published in 1931. It provided inspiration for his only novel, The Green Child, written in 1934. We all know children can make up fantasies and tall tales, having a fertile imagination, but we cannot so easily explain away the factual events which corroborate the story, such as the green skin that she had and her brother had also, if indeed there is any element of truth to it at all. Whatever we of the modern day can make of the tale of the Green Children Woolpit, it will always remain part account and part conjecture, as there is not much to go on. However, we shouldn't discount such things that had occurred many years back, when scientists and archaeologists are finding more and more detail that validates some factual events of long gone years.